Scientists have just made a discovery that's, well, it's pretty startling. It turns out a single act of physical discipline might actually leave a mark on a child's DNA, a mark that we can see years later. So we're going to unpack the science behind this, what it really means, and most importantly, what we can actually do about it.
All right, let's dive right in. It all starts with this one single number, plus 7 months. Now, we're not talking about 7 months on a calendar. No, this is time added biologically to a child's cells. The big question is, how is that even possible?
And that right there is the central mystery we're going to try and solve. What on earth could speed up a child's aging process right down at the molecular level? And, the even bigger question, can we do anything to reverse it? You're definitely going to want to stick around because the answers are, well, they're both shocking and, believe it or not, surprisingly hopeful. Okay, so to really understand why this matters so much, we have to look at this huge disconnect. Get this. A whopping 62% of parents believe that physical discipline is basically harmless. But what if I told you that our children's own cells are telling a completely different story? All right, so let's get into the science of it. We're going to look at this really groundbreaking study from the University of Michigan, and a lot of people are calling this the first real biological smoking gun. And the details here are absolutely crucial because they show just how solid this research is. Dr. Sarah Moore and her team, they looked at 146 kids between 3 and 5 years old, and their finding? It was crystal clear. A direct, measurable link between physical punishment and, a faster ticking biological clock. Okay, so to really get this, we need to talk about a concept called epigenetic age acceleration. Sounds complicated, right? But it's actually pretty simple. Think of it this way. You have your chronological age, how many birthdays you've had. But your cells, they have their own age, a biological age. And scientists can measure this by looking at tiny chemical marks on your DNA. They use this incredible tool called GrimAge. Think of it like a super precise clock for your cells. Now, all sorts of things can speed up or slow down this clock, diet, pollution, you name it. But this study zeroed in on one thing, stress. And what they found was that the stress from physical discipline literally makes that biological clock tick faster. And this chart just lays it all out, plain and simple. For the kids in the study who experienced physical punishment, their biological age was, on average, a full 7 months older than their birthday age. I mean, let that sink in. Their cells were literally aging faster than they were. And this is really where the science hits home, right? Because it's so easy for a parent to think, oh, I just popped his hand once. It's not a big deal. It didn't really matter. But what if the data is telling us that even those small, seemingly minor moments, what if they register as major biological stress? What if every single one of those moments matters? So to put this all into perspective, and this is the really crucial part, the researchers found that the biological impact of this was comparable to a child being exposed to secondhand smoke. Wow. I mean, that's a powerful analogy, right? It really helps you grasp just how serious this is at a molecular level. Okay, but how? How does a moment of stress actually physically change the clock on our DNA? Well, the answer is pretty fascinating. It has to do with something that works kind of like a dimmer switch for our genes. It's basically a chain reaction. So, first, the discipline triggers a stress response. That floods the body with hormones, especially one called cortisol. Then, these hormones cause these tiny chemical caps to basically latch onto the DNA. This whole process is called methylation, and it's just like flipping that dimmer switch. It turns down the activity of certain genes, and that is what makes the biological clock speed up. Now, you might be thinking, and rightly so, okay, but is this just a correlation, or did one thing actually cause the other? Well, the researchers were way ahead of you. They ran a separate study on identical twins, and because twins share the exact same DNA, they could isolate the impact of discipline from everything else. The result? They confirmed it was a causal link. This wasn't a coincidence. The discipline was absolutely the driving factor. Okay, I know that was a lot of pretty heavy science, and you might be feeling a little overwhelmed. But here's the good news. This is the most important part, actually. The science doesn't just point out the problem, it also points to a solution. And it's a surprisingly simple 3-step tool that's all about helping parents repair and reconnect when things get heated. So here are the 3 steps. It's called the 90-second reset, sportscast narration, and the high-five repair. Let's break down exactly what each of those means. Step 1. The 90-second reset. This one starts with you, the parent. Because let's be honest, you can't be a calm anchor for your kid if you're in the middle of a storm yourself. So before you react, you just take 90 seconds. You pause, you breathe. A really simple and effective way to do this is the 4-7-8 pattern. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and then a long, slow exhale for 8.
And this isn't just some feel-good technique. There's real science here. Research from UCLA shows that this kind of breathing can drop your own cortisol, that stress hormone we keep talking about, by a massive 24%. It's all about finding that calm ground for yourself first. Okay, so once you're calm, you move on to step 2, sportscast narration. It's exactly what it sounds like. You just calmly describe what you're seeing, like a sportscaster, with zero judgment. Wow, you are so angry that your tower fell down. I can see you're stomping your feet. This is so powerful because it does 2 things at once. It makes the child feel seen and understood, and it helps them build the brain connections they need to manage their own emotions down the line. And finally, step 3 is the high five repair. Now, this isn't about forcing an apology. It's all about reconnecting. It's just a simple 5-second warm touch. Shoulder to shoulder is great. That physical contact sends this powerful nonverbal message to your child's nervous system that says, "We're okay. We're connected. You are safe." And here's where the science of repair gets really cool. That simple warm touch, it can boost feel-good hormones like oxytocin by up to 7%. And what's really amazing is that in some studies, that boost has been shown to kickstart a process called demethylation. That's the removal of those chemical stress marks from the DNA. It's potentially the beginning of reversing the clock. So let's pull all of this together for a final thought. This new science, it's not just a story about damage. It's really a story about the incredible potential we have for repair. It gives us this really powerful, really hopeful path forward. You know, Dr. Jack Shonkoff, who's a top expert over at Harvard, he really summed it up perfectly. He said, "This is the smoking gun. Physical discipline leaves molecular scars. For the very first time, we can actually see the invisible wound." Look, at the end of the day, this science isn't about making anyone feel guilty. It's not about blame. It's about understanding. It gives all of us a brand new lens to see just how profound our actions can be. And really, it leaves us with a question, a pretty empowering one. Now that we can finally see the scar, what are we together going to do to prevent the wound in the first place?